5 orgasms in 10 minutes.
How is it possible to have that many orgasms in 10 minutes? And how does the Neurowave tool help with this?
First of all, of course, I work with the body. That is, the task is specifically to activate the neural network, a new bodily neural network, which conducts more sensitivity. What is sex? And what are orgasms? It is primarily the activation of one's own sensitivity. We tense up, bam, 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 it goes, it goes, it goes. We reach some high level, and after that, a click, we release, right? But at the top, there must be a catharsis.
So to enjoy, you need to tense up?
Of course. Automatically, a person, he can feel more. You don't need to wait for something special from someone, any special changes. You just need, essentially, to remove unnecessary programs.
The girls lean towards the screen. Hello friends, my name is Julia Romero. I welcome you to my channel. I help experts and entrepreneurs become more expansive in their income and presence by enhancing their connection with themselves, growing their strength and energy. And today we are attending another podcast. My guest today is a body psychologist, candidate of pedagogical sciences, father of 3, entrepreneur, and simply a good man and person, Vadim Borisov. Vadim, hello.
Hello. Thank you for inviting me.
Likewise, I'm glad you came. And today we are discussing a very triggering topic, probably for women. How many orgasms in how many minutes? Let's hear it again.
5 orgasms in 10 minutes.
With the help? Yes, not just like that. With the help of the Neurowave tool. This is the tool that Vadim is popularizing, the one he is actively promoting around the world, teaching other people. And not just other people. My husband Fidel, whom you saw in one of the previous episodes, recently attended Vadim's training.
Great. Make the impulse stronger so that it really feels like an impulse, like this. Spread your fingers a little. Push up a little. Yes, just like that. And start. Let's go. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Come on. Keep going. That's it.
Well, my dear friends, I recently had the chance to witness something truly extraordinary. It was an experience that can only be described as a sensory explosion, much like an orgasm of the senses. This left me feeling deeply moved and filled with a sense of warmth and appreciation. In that moment, I felt It seemed just terrible. What are these men doing to her? I wanted to hug and support her, but I understood that I shouldn't interfere. This is not my process at all. How are you?
Good. I'm a bit in a dazed state right now, but I feel like I've gained a lot of freedom.
Something new, right?
Yes, exactly. A lot in the body.
Fidel, how are you as a master? Good. It works. Well, that's how it turned out. Well, it's raw, but everything happened quickly. And with Vadim, he explains very well.
All processes have been launched.
Yes.
Unlocked the block, unlocked orgasms. Then, yes, and...
Well, it seems they already unlocked something for me there.
All right.
The next one will be in line.
Look, the next one is leading.
Yes. What's there? I myself was recently in a session with Vadim, so we definitely have something to talk about. And Vadim, let's probably get straight to the point. How is it possible to achieve such a number of orgasms in 10 minutes? And how does the Neurowave tool help here? Ladies glued to the screen?
First of all, of course, I work with the body. That is, the task is specifically to activate the neural network, a new bodily neural network, which conducts more sensitivity. And as we know, when we are very sensitive, it means we can achieve very delightful sensations. They are very similar to orgasmic sensations, and that's why you often see in my videos how it happens. Very active and interesting.
Well, your videos certainly evoke different emotions. They go viral, as it's commonly said now, right? They are very popular, by the way. Why do you think that is? Well, this interest people have when...
Interest, yes.
Why is that?
People wonder, how is this possible?
Uh-huh.
Well, how is it? It seems like they don't touch the person, right? Or just a little bit. And they don't touch any intimate or erogenous zones. And yet a person can experience this sensation. It's truly amazing. That's why they click. They watch it several times, this video, and think, is it really possible?
Is it scientific or esoteric? What's happening?
Both, that is to say.
Tell me about both sides.
There are two sides to everything that's happening. I took the scientific point of view because we are still affecting with impulses on the muscles. Yes, on what they convey to us. They react to our triggers, as happens in life. That is, these are certain reflexes. And when there is an impulse, such a nervous, muscular, like a spasmodic one, it gives a very interesting effect, especially when we direct it correctly to the right place, downwards. Precisely in this place where all our bodily neural connections are activated. And it gives such a sensation.
Is this a scientific approach?
Science approach.
And from the esoteric point of view, what else is happening here?
From the esoteric point of view, it is still closer to the Taoist system, which involves activating the lower dantian. This is the lower energy center. We simply accelerate it, meaning we allow the energy to flow very strongly, actively. It vibrates intensely. And from this, what is below, what is located below? Well, this is the sexual center, which is also the financial center, among other things. We accelerate it. And of course, with impulses increase the sensitivity that spreads throughout the body.
Therefore, it is commonly said, yes, that the amount of legalized, accepted sexual energy in your life is roughly equivalent to the amount of money you have. How is this connected? Explain that too.
Well, first of all, we allow ourselves to receive. That's what is most important. When we increase sensitivity, we understand more about what is delicious in our life. And most often, now we associate that the most delightful thing we can obtain is through money.
Listen, certain moments immediately come to my mind. I want you to comment on them as well. There was a period in my life when things were not going well with sex at all. I was earning very well, probably more than ever in my life. And I personally know male entrepreneurs who are solely focused on work. They have no personal life at all, but they earn very well. So what's the deal here then? It seems like all the energy is sublimated into work. Or what? Here, I see that there is no direct money-sex connection. Well, here's a personal example.
Indeed, it all depends on a person's mindset. Because even though they are in the same place, as they say, you can always separate them. We also know that, like love, it is also very multifaceted. I seem to love, yes, but there can be another kind of love. There can be, and relationships, the so-called toxic ones, right? That is, we send the signal down the wrong branch. And in this case, a person chooses, well, as if it diverges from the main center in two directions. The person chooses mostly money or more relationships. So in any case, the choice is always up to the person.
Impulses from a place.
Of course, of course.
And how do you actually disperse this energy? You say we do it in sessions. And indeed, in your videos, it's visible when you work in contact. It's clear that you disperse this energy below. Is there ever a case where it's not there and there's nothing to disperse?
Of course, yes. Because a person initially cannot conduct tension. We always work with tension in our practices. It turns out that nerve impulses create, as I mentioned, a reflex mechanism. Muscles spasm. And in any case, a signal cannot pass through some thoughts that are relaxed. And if at this moment a person is relaxed, prefers to enjoy life more, rather than doing something in reality, exerting effort, then of course none of this will happen. There will be neither sexuality nor orgasmic quality, and there won't be such a flow of money.
So to enjoy, you need to exert effort?
Of course.
That's a very important thought.
Of course.
And unpack it deeper. How does your method Neurowave help to achieve this new neural connection where you need to exert effort to enjoy. This really contradicts the ideas that are being promoted in our society right now. Manna, everything is chill, everything is relaxed, everything is in the flow, and everything is enjoyable. That is like without any effort, you get everything you want. But here you are saying the opposite.
The question is, how can we derive pleasure from not putting in any effort? Because we can have a car, money, basically any material things, and they might not bring us joy because they didn't come to us through the path where we invest our strength, energy, and time. And then when we achieve something, we rejoice because just like in orgasm, the point is that we exert ourselves. Bam, 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 bam. It goes, it goes, it goes. We reach some high level. And after that, a snap, bam, we release, right? But at the top, there must be a catharsis, which we could express in the form of some very strong emotions. When we have earned a lot of money or managed to release an emotional impulse very well, after that, of course, there is a calming down, the so-called post-orgasmic reflexes. There you go. Or including when we can calmly lie down and enjoy this feeling of pleasure from the effect achieved.
It turns out that what people experience in your sessions is like a small life. That is, in terms of what the body experiences, first tensing up, going through catharsis, and then relaxing. It's similar to how we strain ourselves in life to achieve something, right? We also experience our own kind of catharsis, and then it declines, and then a new cycle. Is that how it happens?
And then a new cycle. It's a normal life cycle. But of course, you shouldn't relax for too long or strain too much. This is a very important point. So that you don't have too much tension in life where your whole body is wringing from it. Exactly. Or on the contrary, well, in sessions, it's good when you look at a person and work with them. There are cases when a person is too relaxed, and it's very difficult to teach them to form a new neural connection.
Does that mean they are excessively relaxed in life?
Of course, yes. That is a person who is used to always receiving something from life without straining. The home environment was too comfortable, right? Raised in such greenhouse conditions, constantly receiving treats from life, right? Parents provide this person with something. But this model it could be a question of deriving pleasure from life. That's the point.
Do you get a thrill from it?
Do you get a thrill? Because there are achievers who constantly struggle, always setting goals, and they can't relax. After reaching a certain goal, they keep
New, very new.
More, every time more.
Too much tension.
And then what? Yes. And then they find themselves in some long rehabilitation stage. They end up spending several months in Bali where no one can approach them and they don't want anything.
They lash out at people. So it turns out there are two extremes, overexerting oneself and, on the contrary, being relaxed and not exerting oneself at all to achieve something in life.
Of course.
These are two very delicate things. Yes, as if not to fall into one or the other. If we return to the topic of orgasm, I know since I work a lot with women, I have worked that experiencing pleasure in bed for a woman is such a topic, that is not commonly talked about. Even, probably, it's not always discussed among friends. Because a woman's pleasure has been, since ancient times, seemingly a secondary matter. And if it's obvious with a man that he is experiencing pleasure, that it is reaching a conclusion, with a woman, it's unclear, and women have gotten used to faking this pleasure and showing what isn't there in order to please. Just so the man doesn't get upset, basically doesn't leave, doesn't reject, doesn't go to another. So there's a lot of imitation. And women actually don't know how to achieve orgasms, how to work on it, and how to interact, study their bodies to reach this point. And your tool, Shafik, it turns out, is one of the keys for a woman to be able to feel her body.
Of course. Who teaches about orgasms? Who? It's unlikely that dad or mom will tell you how to do it.
If they manage it themselves, that's also not a given.
Where do we learn about sexuality and all these relationships? Naturally, we take some patterns from what we've seen somewhere, from some friends. But there can also be interactions between mom and dad in the family. And there it comes down to, so to speak, the consequence of how one should behave. But very often indeed, this is a mistaken belief, and people later realize that they cannot experience orgasm. When I ask during a session if they've ever experienced it, of course I have. The girl lies down, I touch her main centers to understand how the body reacts, and there's nothing there. I mean, there's no energy, no neural connections, no body reaction. Well, how can there be an orgasm without tension? It's impossible. You don't know how. That's why we teach this in practices. Unfortunately, such situations happen, and you have to trust the space. If you don't know how, learn.
Mm-hmm. And women have a weak understanding of what pleases them. Men have an even weaker understanding of what pleases their women. Do couples attend your training sessions?
Yes, couples do come. Recently, there was an experience. Two people who can't find, let's say, the meaning of life together. To that extent already, huh? I mean, it's very interesting, but sexuality, including orgasmic capacity, greatly reflects on people's overall life stance, how they interact with each other, understand, listen, and feel. And what is the task here? It's for partners to be able to catch those very vibrations from each other. If he moves slightly towards her, yes, and can touch that very spot which responds very well to impulses, then the girl quickly reaches orgasms. But if you don't feel, don't listen, if those neural connections aren't there, then of course you won't be able to bring the girl to such a state. The girl is forced to fake an orgasm to satisfy, so to speak, the feeling that the man has actually done something for her.
Mm-hmm. It's very sad, of course, to fake something that isn't there your whole life.
Sad, but it's really very common.
Mm-hmm. Regarding the traumatic experience, many women in their current lives, well, since I study our unconscious, I know that in the accumulated experience of past lives, and I have such experience as well, there is a lot of traumatic experience related to sexuality, the expression of sexuality, and the connection between a man and a woman. And sometimes this traumatic experience, I talked about this in detail in my storytelling. If you're interested, check out 18 Plus on Instagram, the Band Network. When we women agree, and this is not a story for men, it's specifically a women's story when we agree to sex. But in reality, we don't want it. It's a very common story that a woman simply can't say no, she feels uncomfortable, or for some other reason, people might think something, or it's necessary at home. It's necessary. We agree to sex when we don't want it. And in fact, for some kind of benefit, women often engage in intimate relations, such domestic prostitution, right? That's also a very common story. And a lot of different traumas accumulate. And how does your tool, how in your practice, how easy is it for women to get into this? What kind of feelings does this evoke? Can this be worked through mentally at all, or only through the body, or to somehow live through all this pain accumulated in the female body, all this trauma, leave it in the past, and really start enjoying oneself, one's body, life, and intimate connections?
Well, first of all, you correctly mentioned enjoying oneself. That is, in order not to dive into a whirlpool with your partner, where someone will owe something to someone in this situation, first and foremost, you need to derive pleasure from sex for yourself. So, what is sex and what are orgasms? It is above all the activation of your own sensitivity. You derive pleasure from the fact that new sensations and vibrations are coursing through you and your body. Yes, just like when we eat food, we also receive pleasure. Our taste receptors on the tongue work in this way. We can distinguish between tasty and tasteless food, right? But we can also feel that tasty food, due to a trigger, becomes tasteless at some point. So it's like we have a plate of great food, but my psychological state is so bad that everything becomes bland. Exactly. Especially, yes, some deep experiences. But if we direct ourselves towards deliciousness, towards accepting ourselves, our wholeness, our feminine wholeness, then our internal taste sensations will be so heightened that we will derive pleasure from ourselves, from the fact that we can feel this. We allow ourselves to feel this. And then relationships, no matter what they are, will not depend on a man for me. That's the most important thing. They will depend on how well I can enjoy myself with a man, but not because of him.
This is a super important thing because, firstly, women spend a large part of their lives trying to fill an internal deficit with someone or something external, shopping, food, and other things like achievements. And in relationships, as soon as we have some kind of internal insufficiency, our own internal deficit, including in sex, when women say, it's not enough for me, he doesn't satisfy me, or, well, something is wrong, right? And we try to insert a man into that. This is inherently impossible because no one from the outside can satisfy us. This is. And you know why I think a woman is so powerful and multifaceted that the attempt to plug this poor man into some of her dissatisfaction leads to nothing and indeed leads to the destruction of relationships. And then the woman says, no one can satisfy me, there is no such man, this one lacks this and that one lacks that. And it turns out that this tool helps a woman learn to derive pleasure from herself?
Of course, yes. The whole point is, what am I teaching? That we derive pleasure, not from deficiency, but from abundance. That is, when we need a man not to fill some kind of void. Exactly. And that we can't do without him, but so that he gives us expansion of ourselves or our own capabilities. Therefore, our basic needs should be met so that we don't seek a man for money, so to speak, and don't trade sex for money. Exactly. So that we are whole, and after that, we expand. We then find a man to expand our sensitivity, expand our sexuality, expand everything we already have, rather than to fill something we lack. This is very important.
This philosophy, in my opinion, is so honest and correct, and some things are so distorted in society, especially on social media. What reels are gaining momentum, right? When women show how a man gave me this, gave me that, gave me this, gave me that. And we often don't even realize that behind this, there is a real deficit. And there might be nothing in these relationships.
Absolutely.
That is that very, that magic which is possible in a true union of a man and a woman, when two merge in pleasure, in orgasm, including when this union truly expands both. And it results in that philosophy you are talking about.
Gives more, yes. It gives you more. You have essentially already reached a certain level, and you need a person who will be the cherry on top of this cake. And then this cherry will sparkle, yes, and make your whole cake glow. So much so that it will just pulse and attract the eyes of millions of other people. Of course.
And when how does it manifest in sessions? So tell me, how is this experience rewritten? How does experiencing this neurowave, this kind of energetic wave through your body, how does it help create this experience? A little explain this process because it seems a bit wild from the outside. When you watch, a woman is screaming, writhing, all sorts of things are happening, and it's a little scary. What if something happens to me when I go into this experience? Tell me, how is this some kind of restructuring, a bit of an internal shift, right?
A bit of an internal shift. Indeed, my video has two different segments. The first, women are screaming. The second are orgasming. And people don't understand what's happening at all. How is that? What do we do in practices and personal sessions? But first of all, of course, it's about removing the tension from the body. It is triggered specifically by some psychological triggers that prevent us from reaching something new in life. Exactly. What does it mean to reach something new? It means that, we only think about something that bothers us, and the triggers mainly revolve around this. Perhaps even an egregore. That can also be the case. And we cannot allow ourselves to get something new because we can't even breathe freely, as they say, with our chest. Even physiologically, it turns out. Therefore, we remove this block from the body in the form of some kind of catharsis. Usually, that's how it goes away. And then the next moment, of course, we give the opportunity to feel the girl, the touch. Through touch, we have all paired practices through touch, our own impulses. That's the thing. She activates her own neural connections, these impulses, well, all the receptors. Imagine if we, on our fingers, just turn off the receptors, or let's say, I don't know, freeze our hands. Yes, they will be frozen. And naturally, when we come back from the cold, we don't really feel much, just some surface organs. And then we come back and we melt this ice, right? And the hands start to feel very, very soft, right? They start to transmit more sensations. The whole point is that you can, yes, from every touch, from the man who has been in your life for many years, yes, where there is no longer such pleasure, he touches you and you just explode from how amazing it feels. What he did, you just experienced it all in your body.
I have a question. When? How does it work? When, for example, someone touches you who is not the man you live with. Love, yes, but some other man. Like in your sessions, for instance.
Intention. When you're standing in the metro and someone touches you, you're not going to orgasm and feel pleasure. In any case, you should be open to the space for a certain man. You have a certain attunement. And when we open, you can open a door where the space is not ready to receive. That's it. But when we talk about your own man, there is already attunement. There is access. It's like I have my beloved one, but I don't get pleasure from him. That's it. And then the body is open. There is access, but the body is not sensitive. Therefore, here we definitely say that the intention, a person's intention, should be to open up to a specific person, a specific type of person, a specific beloved person, and so on. Not just to everyone. Now, I will walk around.
Yes, orgasm for all.
If someone touches me in the metro, I will orgasm. Well, of course not. We're not talking about that.
You know, I'll touch on a topic, violence, which often arises in childhood towards women, especially within the family circle. And there the body reacts on its own. That is, well, for example, a girl I don't know of what age to do. She has no intentions. She just exists. And it causes shame that your body reacts to touch. So it's both pleasant and shameful at the same time. That's when violence actually happens. I've worked a lot with this topic too. And it turns out we develop, well, the first pattern, right? What kind of pleasure-receiving program? That it's shameful, that it's unpleasant, and that the body reacts even when you weren't planning to react with your mind, but the body acts differently. Of course, the body acts differently. And I'm thinking about such sessions when it's a stranger, a man with whom you have no contact, how open or closed you are. Because I've realized for myself, well, after our session, and in general, knowing my experience, I am 100% closed to someone. I didn't choose. No intention will help me. I can pray, ignite my chakras, meditate. I just can't. I've always avoided massages with men because those touches make me uncomfortable. They don't open me up. They only close me off. Well, maybe there's some kind of past life-related trauma in that, but essentially the point doesn't matter. And I'm curious about how you see this in sessions, how it happens when women with such experiences also participate. How do they open up or not open up? Does everyone manage to open up or not?
I was very surprised myself that a huge number of women who have experienced rape have certain tensions in their bodies. And at this moment, a person of consciousness makes a certain decision to go towards openness, like now I'm open to everyone. Or on the contrary, to remain closed.
Decide mentally with the mind?
Exactly. That is, it happens on an unconscious level. Meaning, a very small child. At that time, where a child cannot properly process trauma.
a lot indeed becomes sealed into the unconscious there.
Of course, yes. Well, we all know already, yes, that most of us have childhood traumas. We cannot emotionally process it. And these psychotraumas that are in our body are mostly naturally from childhood. Exactly. And it turns out that somehow the body itself chose a certain position in which it is better to either open up or, on the contrary, to close off. And this, as a rule, goes against. That is, it is either excessive openness or closeness. There is no normality in the situation anymore.
Uh-huh.
Exactly. And therefore, a person with their intention, when, as you say, I need only one person or their,
Well, or who I choose.
or someone else, a person must have an intention. When they come to me for a session, they clearly say, I don't like this. I want to close myself off, for example, from everyone. Well, to choose there, right? Or on the contrary, to open up.
Uh-huh.
That's when we work with this, because there is no such situation as what is normal for society or what is normal for a person in general. No, he chooses this himself. And from this we proceed. What are we going to do with him? Do we give him strength? Do we give him relaxation? Do we give acceptance, or the opposite? That the person learns to give more. The yin-yang position of the feminine and masculine is worked out only upon request. Just like in your session, it was the same. When you made a decision for yourself, an experiment. And so, and how? We search for ourselves. And in the end, what we find?
I understood why I came. Yes, indeed, I realized that it seems that I understood why I came at all.
That's why I don't tell this. So, you'll decide for yourself how to tell it. How is it better? How to better formulate it? Well, in general, just one intention.
Yes, intention. Tell me, as a man, how did you come to such an activity? Was it through trial and error, an intuitive path, or how did life lead you in this direction? Because, for example, when this idea came to my husband, it came to us, by the way, absolutely simultaneously. The chakras opened, the flow opened, and at the same time, you know how it was? Before going to sleep, I thought, damn, I need to tell Fidel about this topic for sure. He will find it interesting. Fell asleep, forgot. Woke up in the morning. Well, apparently I wasn't the one who was supposed to say it. Fell asleep, can't remember it in the morning. What isn't written down, I can't remember. I'm tormented, walking around all day thinking, what did I come up with that I need to tell him? And what do you think? In the evening, he's watching YouTube, and either your video or someone else's comes up. And he says, I will never have it like that. I say, what won't you have? I look, and he says, well, I feel like for me it's like this. Well, the effect of this energy wave will never happen. I say, listen, that's exactly what I wanted to tell you. So this is how it turned out for us. And we had already been in contact before. We were corresponding. And that's how the idea of going to your training was born. And in general, that's how this episode came to be. Everything was absolutely natural, native, as they say. And how about you? How did you come to this?
Well, initially, I wasn't pursuing orgasms. I was just trying to find myself, really, how I could apply my own potential. I feel energy. At 18, I was already healing people, walking them over coals, and conducting meditations. At that time, it was the 90s, there was no internet, and I didn't know what it was. I had like a couple of books. I just started exploring what it was, how it worked. Well, it was some kind of curiosity. Primarily a desire to learn something I didn't know before. And it led to me starting to practice. I was interested in how it worked, and it did work. But at a certain point in life, I chose the path of self-realization. 20 years of family, children. I have 3 children, various businesses, and I was only focused on that. Well, when I recently got divorced, I realized that what I had done before no longer excites me. I want to provide more value to people.
At what age did you realize this? I'm curious about what life cycle you were going through.
Well, it turns out to be over 40 years.
You were 40, right? So a kind of midlife crisis?
Yes. At that moment when you already want something new, yes.
Mug. Realized old things no longer reflect you. Don't want that.
I would say that I even tried to do the old things, but I couldn't anymore.
It doesn't work, right?
I mean, I keep doing it. Yes, I had my own clothing brand, and I opened another clothing brand. I realized I'm burning out. That's it. Enough. Stop. I need to provide something useful for people that would inspire me.
So, it turns out you were an entrepreneur all these years and worked with energy. Exploring yourself. Was it like a hobby for you?
A little bit. Yes, I did it, but just a little. I mean, I practically didn't devote time to it, I would say. It was important for me to realize myself as a father for my children and in business. That was what I needed. But as you understand, at a certain point, everyone comes to a kind of reset. Who am I? What am I in this life? Even if you haven't come to it yourself, life will turn you around.
Often it's painful when it turns you around. Better to move faster on your own.
Well, that's how it happened. I am grateful to my mentors, my guides for this,
To all visible ones,
to all visible and invisible ones. Yes, I constantly have someone appearing, and yet I just return to what has always inspired me. This is what can truly change people's lives, and I am passionate about it.
and you truly decided to dedicate your life to this, and
Yes, I took all the tools that I had developed, because you don't become a master in 2 hours, or I don't know, in a week of practice. It's a lifelong experience, of course. And by simply delving deeper into what I know, taking additional tools, I was able to expand it so much. Well, naturally, using my level of pedagogical training, I had 20 years of teaching experience, and I was able to develop training sessions and teach people how to do this.
by the way, I see that you are developing very well and strongly in teaching. So you are teaching those who work with others?
Yes, exactly.
Yes, that's exactly what you're talking about. 20 years of teaching experience. You're a teacher of teachers, right?
A teacher of teachers. That's what interests me the most. Not just that, but teaching people to use the tool so they can teach others. We can immediately expand many times over and grasp how to improve ourselves, all of Russia, the whole world.
Awesome. I know people come to you for training from different parts of the world, and you yourself are flying everywhere.
It turns out that way. There is an intention, there is an intention. I want my word to be all over the world. And apparently that's how the space works. Well, it turns out that my reels randomly took off in various,
Social nets.
yes, in various countries. And from there, invitations are pouring in. And already, accordingly, in Dubai, and I will be in Budapest now in September. And I recently flew to Japan. So that's interesting.
Listen, for me, this is a great example of how a personal brand naturally takes off, which people try to forcibly develop when several factors come together. This is really the thing that makes your eyes light up. You are really good at it, and it's what people need right now. And when these three factors come together, this takeoff happens very quickly, very beautifully. You haven't been doing this for very long, have you? Well, if we talk about some big life cycles.
Yes, I haven't been working with these tools for very long. It's important what approach.
Well, and your accumulated life experience, it's clear that everything you've done before is important, and how it all came together in this tool. I mean, when you find your tool, your point of effort application, everything happens very quickly. In fact, your story is very inspiring. As we talked off camera, you said, well, actually, it's been about a year and already such results. It's clear that you don't launch into space from a toilet. This means that the person had done a lot before that, right? And it all came together at one point. Boom. And it gave such a great result. It's just very inspiring. And I want, those experts in different fields who will definitely be watching us to see in you a real living example that it's possible, that when you find your point, your tool, you're invited and called to different cities and countries.
Here, I wanted to mention one key word. The main thing is to be honest with yourself. If you are honest with yourself, accordingly, people will see this honesty in the frame they see there, in reels or something else, in the word you convey. And this honesty, it gives people the opportunity to open up, trust, and naturally transform more deeply. And since I do this with the intention of benefiting people, I don't put money first. They are very important. And that's why I set a high price for my services. But nevertheless, I know for sure that the person who comes to me, I will fully address their request. I want this. I want it. And I honestly do everything I can from the perspective of a master.
What depends on you?
Yes.
Cool.
It's important. That's why it happens that people see and follow the word as everywhere. Energy, or I don't know, neural connections, everything works.
And now? We've already talked about this. Share your opinion on how you feel about the fact that you are teaching. Well, as if your competitors, those who will also be doing this. And possibly, well, let's say, yes, not quite the right word, but will be doing it more successfully than you. How do you feel about that? That you are teaching those who...
At first I was worried before creating my first course for masters that my students would come out and do the same thing as I do. And accordingly, they would take away some of my field. Yes, I mean, clients for themselves. But after I finally told myself that I know what I'm doing. I fully trust my desires, intentions. That is, I am not afraid of anything, most importantly. I'm not afraid of any competition. And after I had already graduated about 200 people, I understand that there is not a single person who is completely like me. Yes, every master is unique. And when a person comes to me for mastery, they observe his words, watch his delivery, look at the techniques, and everyone has their own way of thinking. And even though they use the same tool, read the same book, everything happens differently. The impulse is different. And apparently my impulse is so strong that people are truly willing to come from all over Russia, from all over the world.
Yes, that's great. You recently had training in Japan?
Yes, I did.
How did you end up in Japan?
Impulse.
Why Japan? Was it choice?
There was an intention. I had an intention. I want to fly to Japan and work with not just a foreigner, but an American. I need this for the development of my audience. And it so happened that one of my subscribers, an American, was in China, and he said, I'll fly to you. And he paid for the entire course. In fact, he covered my entire trip. And I came, taught him. It was, of course, amazing. But he took pictures with me and compared, as he said in English, you are like a celebrity for me.
Wow.
Yes, for me, it was the highest, a high rank, because I know what a celebrity means to an American, and I understand that, yes, it means I can break into that context, that market too, and spread the word more.
Did you think about this a couple of years ago, that your life would turn out this way?
I didn't think. I knew.
Uh-huh.
There's this aspect about me, as energy practitioners say. I don't so much feel as I know. I have claircognizance. So when I need to press a certain button or point for someone, say something, I choose the right word and the person. Experiences an emotional explosion, or conversely, a sense of enjoyment. This moment, it's this knowledge. I know who I am, what I want, even now.
Has it been like this?
Yes, it has always been like this. There was one moment, though, yes, I'll say a moment when a person re-chooses their path.
Was that around 40?
Yes. That's when I chose my new path now. I mean, I always knew what I wanted. But at some point, once or twice in a lifetime, there are complete resets when everything you had is taken away. Money, property, family, the entire emotional part, absolutely. Friends, absolutely. So there was a moment when I was completely at zero, and when I really had nothing, no friends, no parents, no children, nothing.
What helped you get through that period? And in general, how did you manage to go through this transformation, not break down, but emerge renewed?
I realized that no one would help me. I had to pull myself together, get off the couch. And then I started doing, first of all, sports. I ran every day. It gave me willpower. I went to the gym. It gave me more energy, the understanding that I could achieve something greater through effort. And then I started applying the techniques I possess. These are part of Taoist techniques that simply allow you to feel that very power within your body, energetic, neural, which already gives you mobilization and naturally works with your mindset. I did see a psychologist, but it was a very brief excursion because I realized that if I don't help myself, no psychologist will help. I just started to sort out my thoughts and then my body. And then I took that strength and faced the triggers. This is very important.
Your own triggers, right?
To step on the triggers and follow them, as they will definitely lead you to something.
To explore your shadow sides, yes, the things we suppress, the things that reveal us, go there. I actually think you need to dive into it headfirst. Well, when you already understand what your triggers are, just boldly dive in headfirst, because otherwise it only delays the transformation process, prolongs it, and then it will be quite unpleasant.
Yes, we and the triggers, we should explore them as a kind of sign, right? Which serve as guides for you. He says, would you like to go there with me? You think, well, time, money. If there's no money, it's okay. Let's go. And there, you accidentally meet someone who becomes a guide for you and gives you some information. And if you follow such positive triggers...
And such intuition, right? Probably?
Yes. If something seemed to you, it didn't just seem, go for it.
That's how it was with our trip to Bali. You know, honestly, it wasn't really in the budget, and it seemed like such a whim. But I clearly felt that I needed to be there at that time. I had never been there before. And there, things about my sexuality started to unfold. Everything began to twist and turn and unravel. So I completely agree with you that sometimes following an impulse, which makes no sense from a rational perspective, later results in such a beautiful, complete picture. Oh my goodness. Just like that.
And then you will eventually find your path, which will give you the fullness and quality of life.
You know, I am always very glad to talk with mature people who have already gone through their phase of transformation, crisis. Yes, precisely. Well, from astrology, we know this starts around 35 to 38. Depending on what you have understood before, it will be very clear how you will live through 35 to 38. And as someone who has already gone through this stage, I see how wonderfully you have emerged onto your new renewed cycle. How quite, I would say, probably not just quite quickly, but very quickly you are gaining momentum. And what you will achieve in a very short time is, well, quite obvious. To me, as someone who has been in the information field for a long time, and it's clear that soon you will indeed be working all over the world. It is felt, yes. It's evident in how the audience embraces it. That is, it's not forced. Not an attempt, you know, to create some kind of successful success through marketing with multi-million-dollar budgets. But when this happens naturally, when the audience genuinely needs what you are doing and you are passionate about what you do. And it's so beautiful, so natural. Well, actually, that's probably why we're sitting here today.
Yes, that's why I want to conduct more training sessions rather than personal sessions, so more people can join. I have information products. People use them, but again, for those who cannot physically come to the Moscow, and now, of course, I'm being invited to travel to different regions. I'm choosing routes. I will definitely be in Almaty, Kazakhstan, and in Krasnodar. And now I'm also planning many more routes. That's exactly what, yes, you're right, I'm passionate about, to give more and more people something useful to change their lives. Exactly right. Then they go and evaluate. They don't just they recommend you.
They, indeed vote with their money too.
Vote with your money, friends, join training.
Vadim, let's summarize then. And so, that people understand what kind of requests they should bring to such sessions. If someone wants a personal session with you, what kind of requests should they have, or with your students? What, when, where does it hurt? Tail falling off, fur shedding. What requests?
Primarily, of course, increasing sensitivity, the so-called orgasmicity, in this order to feel life as complete. Because we not only exist in the mode of just for oneself, But it's also important for us to interact in pairs so that this feeling is very delightful and beautiful. And on this basis, very healthy. Normal relationships, family relationships are built. This is very important.
Perhaps, this is the only reason why it's worth creating relationships at all, to feel each other, to increase this volume of sensuality. And this tool helps as if, to remove the superficial, to peel away the layers, and to step onto your true path, the feminine path.
Of course. And there are, of course, a few more points. These are the so-called repeating life scenarios when a person seems to be doing the same thing over and over, and nothing invigorates them, gives them life, energy, right? That is because every day it's the same word, the same person, the same company, and so on. So the people who surround you, remember, are your projection. If you change your perception of life, the people around you will change. You simply won't allow negative or abusive relationships into your life. You will have other people who will respect and value you. And that's the whole point. By revealing your own sensitivity through neural connections, of which there are billions, millions, billions in your body, other people simply come to you immediately. People, money, anything you want. This is exactly what we uncover in my practices.
So when you want to move to a new branch of life, right, as if to stop going around in the same closed circle, to increase your sensitivity not only in terms of sex, but sensitivity to life's pleasures, to enjoying yourself and what surrounds you. Probably these are the main requests, right?
Yes. And for example, a very similar concept is the lack of energy, right? The same thing. There's no energy, nothing in life brings joy, and so on. So this is what a person really feels afterwards. We know very well that we can go to the Maldives, right? The sun is shining, the sea is there, but somehow nothing makes us happy. We have a hole in our soul from something, from relationships, and so on. These holes need to be removed. The unnecessary should be unloaded, and other feelings should be loaded. Feelings, as a rule, are loaded, not even by me. A person can automatically feel more. You don't need to wait for something from someone for special changes. Basically, you just need to remove unnecessary programs.
Awesome. I thank you for this interview. And of course, I always ask, what gifts will we give to our viewers?
The gifts are that they can come to my sessions and practices for free. It all depends on what desire, what intention the person has, if they truly want it. You can always like, repost, and do various actions. And I always appreciate those people who, like me, spread information around our world and give the opportunity to change other people.
You're talking about karmic management now? Now let's get specific. For the most active comments under our episode, there are always those people who gladly comment. Write something, yes. And we have a tradition of giving a gift for some interesting comments. Who do you choose? It can be one person or several, as you decide. So what will we give to our active listeners? Who comments on the episode?
The gift is the most important participation in my training.
Person in Moscow.
Person in Moscow. And offline training, yes. And if the person is from somewhere far away, well, as an option, it can be online. And awakening energy, especially recorded on my resource. And these two gifts are always waiting. The main thing is to have an active, very interesting entry.
Engagement, yes. And every listener can receive a gift from us just like that. Under this episode in the description, go there, there's a link. And through this link, a meditation on wholeness will be available to you. Tell us about it.
I recorded it in Bali, and it was an amazing atmosphere where I was in meditation myself, and I made it by chance. But it started to change people's lives so much that I decided to give it to you as a gift. It really resets you. It gives you the opportunity to perceive your body and space in a completely different way.
Awesome. Friends, go to the description. Under the episode, there is a link where you can get this meditation in a special bot. Don't miss the opportunity and increase your chances. Comment on the episode, your insights, thoughts, anything you want to write after listening to this material. Vadim, I thank you for
Thanks, Julia.
an honest, open dialogue, for your experience, for how you, with such bright eyes, you do your work. And the more such masters who have awakened themselves and help others awaken, the faster we all move together to a truly new level of greater happiness, greater satisfaction with life. Thank you for this interview.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. Friends, this was Yulia Romero and Vadim Borisov with you. Give us likes, hit the bell, subscribe to the channel, and see you in the next episode.
Thank you, friends. See you.